Police began removing some of the victims' personal belongings from that crime scene in Moscow. Police said the families have been asking for some of those items back. Investigators say those things are no longer needed for their investigation. KREM 2's Amanda Rowley was at the house today and spoke to law enforcement about the next steps in this investigation.
At the request of the students' families, Moscow police packed up personal belongings at the home. In fact, Chief James Fry said it was important for him to personally be here with the officers, boxing up those items so they could, in a sense, be there for the family and give back those items that might help the family heal. The chief himself drove the U-Haul into the driveway. Police officers arrived early this morning to pack up the students' things, and by noon today, they finished loading the boxes onto the truck. This is not something police typically do, but Idaho State Police spokesperson Aaron Snell says in this case, it was appropriate.
I'd like to give a quick update to the community. Starting Friday morning, we are going to be bringing in a professional cleaning crew to go to the residents and begin cleaning. Part of the reason we're doing that is because of the biohazards as well as chemicals that were used during the investigation. So there will be activity over at that residence on King Road, and we just want people to know about that.
The general rule for crime scenes of a complicated nature is that they should be maintained and preserved, usually through trial and sometimes all the way through appeals until the appeals are completed.
Yeah, this was a surprise, Ashley, because it's been quiet out there for a while. Remember, they were even going to break down the crime scene at one point. Today, though, about 5 pickup trucks showed up to the house, parked outside. There were some men that went inside, and then they started carrying out the mattresses, which appeared to be sort of wrapped up in some kind of like big bag. So the mattresses went out, they went into the back of the pickup trucks, and then they also carried out what you can see right here. I think that was a bed frame that they wrapped in a tarp, and you can see the people carrying the items are wearing gloves, loaded it into the back of the pickup truck, took out some smaller items too. They were there for maybe 2 hours or so, and then off they went.
Do we know for sure that this was, I mean, they look like the state, but it certainly could be big, burly guys for the defense. I highly doubt the defense is allowed to take items away, that this is more likely the state would be taking it to a lab for preservation and that the defense could visit the lab. But were they answering any questions? I know they normally don't, but were they today?
They weren't answering questions. I did notice one of them was a Moscow police officer, I believe, that I have seen in the past going in and out of the house. So I think these were detectives. But don't forget, Ashley, the gag order that was signed by the judge. The police are not allowed to say a word to us anymore. We can send emails and ask what was going on. They're not going to answer. Same with the defense, same with the prosecution at this point.
The scene has been substantially altered from its condition at the time of the homicide, including removal relevant property and furnishings, removal of structural items such as wallboard and flooring, and subjected to extensive chemical application creating a potential health hazard. These are some of the reasons that we have concluded that a jury view would not be appropriate.
The FBI recently canvassed the home in October, gathering data to create visual aids that can be used during the trial.
Visual aids, they provide more information that allow for the understanding of photographs and videos. They can provide measurement. They can provide the location of walls, for example, or the directions of cameras.
Do you mean the FBI used information from Dylan and Bethany about the condition of the house at the time homicide to get a perfect picture?
The University of Idaho calling the demolition a next step of healing for the community, defending the decision to tear down the 3-story home.
The prosecutor actually communicated with us late last week that even if they wanted to bring a jury in, because the house had been altered so much from its original state, code probably would not allow a jury to come back in.
This morning, the home where 4 University of Idaho college students were killed last year is set to be torn down, but not without opposition from some of the victims' families.
I think the world agrees with them, but the home also has a significant emotional value to it.
In a new statement, the families of Kaylee Gonzalez and Xana Kernodle argue the house is also a critical piece of evidence, saying when the victims can't speak, you have to speak for them when you feel someone is hurting the case. They say having access to the house could eventually help with key questions, such as could the surviving roommates hear a dog barking from the 3rd floor? Screams? Can you hear those same sounds from the bottom apartment? The University of Idaho owns the home and says it represents a grim reminder of the murders, saying it is time for its removal and to allow the collective healing of our community to continue. Meanwhile, a trial date for Kohberger has still not been scheduled, an added frustration for the victims' families.
Says in this case, it was appropriate.
We've had the crime scene for quite some time, and the family would like back some of those belongings. There's undoubtedly some sentimental issues, and I think it will help with a little bit of the healing, and we want to be part of that process. We want to help them. We don't want to keep holding on to items that really aren't needed for the investigation.